And Matt is not here, but we have a much better and more competent person, I'm guessing, behind the switcher today. Since he's not here, we can make fun of him. I guess we make fun of him to his face too. But
I feel like it's like we make fun of him all the time to his face, and it's okay because it's like joking.
Yeah. But behind his back, it feels worse.
It's kind of mean.
Yeah.
But it's like the same joke that I would make if he was here.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you're like, ooh, that was mean. So.
But Matt always has his phone out while he's doing it. Emma does not. She's
focused.
very focused. She's a professional. Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
And I'm Rebecca.
I'm John.
And
I just yelled that. I'm sorry.
And Matt is not here, but we have a much better and more competent person, I'm guessing, behind the switcher today. Since he's not here, we can make fun of him. I guess we make fun of him to his face too. But
I feel like it's like we make fun of him all the time to his face, and it's okay because it's like joking.
Yeah. But behind his back, it feels worse.
Kind of mean.
Yeah.
But it's like the same joke that I would make if he was here.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you're like, ooh, that was mean. So.
But Matt always has his phone out while he's doing it. Emma does not. She's
focused.
Very focused. She's a professional, and I guess maybe she's going to be starting a podcast of her own when she goes back to her home church.
She's actually a full-time podcaster, influencer, is what I'm hearing.
Wow, sweet.
I'm just kidding. Well, if we're gonna kind of hype up Emma real quick, gotta say you might notice it looks a little different.
It does look a little different.
Great.
And that is the work of Emma.
We were just talking,
Brooke, and
we don't know what to do with our arms now, though.
Yes.
There's no table.
Do we sit them up here? Do we go down here? This is we only had so much budget money. We had to keep these. We've had these chairs for so long. We had to keep them.
We had
here.
to find a use for them. And so. But no,
it looks great.
Update. It's going to be, I'm excited.
Can you see the table up there? Okay.
Nice.
Little foreground shot. Get a little depth in it.
This is
nice.
much better than the elephant stool thing.
Oh, yeah, way more comfortable.
You know the elephants in the circus and they stand on that little bitty thing?
Yeah.
You know that's what I felt like.
We had this, we used to sit on these little IKEA chairs, and literally it's like a round top about this big.
Dinner plate size.
Yeah, dinner plates. So...
Yeah, those were meant for students. It's like all the furniture we have in the whole church was bought for the youth room and has now been like divided up amongst the church. So they don't care what they
what hasn't broken.
What hasn't. Well, not much of it is broken, which is surprising because we just did cheap IKEA stuff, and it's so shout out to cheap IKEA furniture. It is really lasted a long time. So big thing going on right now in culture, Olympics, right?
Yeah, have you been watching it?
I have been watching highlights of it. So I would like to be watching it, but I've just, for one, it's on NBC. So like I only have NBC on one TV because we don't have cable.
So you're like an antenna.
So I have an antenna where I can get NBC. So it like depends what we're doing because it's in like our living room. So if the kids are working on stuff or they're already watching something.
What is your go-to sport? For the, like, what's your favorite
I'm really interested in the probably primarily the sprinters this year because they got a lot. They have Sha'Carri, whatever her last name. I can't remember Sha'Carri's last name, but she's the one with a really long fingernail. Yeah. She's got cool style. Like she's really interesting to watch because she has so much style when she runs, and I'm just like, how can you run with that crazy long hair extensions and the long finger? I think that would mess you up because, the sprinters, they got to put their hands down. Yeah, it's like, I think it would just stuff hitting you would throw you off. Like, it's always to me like when like baseball players wear all the gold chains. Like, I would think that would bother you. Yeah. But I guess if you're that good of an athlete, nothing bothers you.
You're actually even a better athlete because you're able to beat everybody.
And you look cool doing it.
And carry about 17 pounds extra pounds around your neck.
I don't get the super long fingernails. Do you? Do you think that looks?
No,
I think it looks cool on her because she has that style, but I just don't get it in general. Like,
if she can function with
how do you go to the bathroom?
I always feel
stuff like that. Like
no idea.
Average everyday things.
Emma's not listening.
It is, isn't it? I sometimes I'll go to places and I'll see someone like typing on a computer with long nails, and I'm like, that would annoy me.
It would.
Like, I'm very much like, if my fingernails get too long, like they're too long right now, and I can't stop thinking about like I need to clip them. But
because I'm me, I think about how do you keep those clean?
Yeah.
Do you know?
I don't know. I would have a lot of questions for someone with really long fingernails.
So like next week on the podcast, we're going to be introducing or interviewing who are the people that do fingernails and stuff.
Oh, I know this.
What's like that job title? I guess like a nail tech. I don't know. Cosmetologist. There we go.
I thought there was an actual name for it.
So if you know what we're
nailologist,
you're an expert.
It's probably nail tech.
So you like the sprinting.
Because they got some big names, and the Jamaica sprinters are like a big deal. So it's like now we don't have Usain Bolt anymore. Was he in the? I don't know if he was in the last Olympics. I didn't get into the last Summer Olympics because it was.
Was that COVID?
I think it was COVID. Got delayed a year.
Moved back or something weird.
Something like that, but I never got into it. So I don't know if Usain Bolt was in it, but I didn't get into the Olympics. But now he's not in this one. So it's like, is Jamaica still going to be dominant, or is USA going to take over? Because they have some good sprinters too. So that's what I'm into. And Team USA basketball, because, it's just fun to watch them
dominate.
Basketball.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Well, I tend to look at the parents. I like the stories.
Oh,
okay.
So I'm more
like
into
a good
the
story
humans than the sports. You know, but I do love to. I love to watch gymnasts. Yeah. Because they get so much coverage. Like you hear so much about those athletes and swimmers. Like how do swimmers do that? You're talking about
gymnastics is such an odd sport to me, though.
Do you think so?
Why? That's all I have to say is why. Like I get this. I get a lot of the other sports, but gymnastics, I just like it's fun to watch, but I just don't even like. Why would you want to do that? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I kind of feel that,
like, I'm not a huge sports person. I'm married to one. Yeah. But think about it. These guys are like, and women are like flying up in the air like 10 feet, based on the power of their own run and a little trampoline. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
It is.
Like how God gifted those people. And then when I watch the Olympics, I mean, not to like Jesus juke it already, but I watch that and I think, okay, God, you made some extraordinary humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I look at that too, because especially in like some of the sports and stuff, like just all the things that they have to do to like make a basket or swim, like how much the discipline and just how complex the mind is to be able to control your body to do all that. It's like the peak level of what humans can do.
Yes. And that is cool. Over and over and over again. It's amazing.
Yeah. But, like with a lot of these sports, you just wonder how much like performance enhancing stuff is involved in it. You know what I mean? Because there was that huge scandal with the
Armstrong thing.
Yeah, like with all the stuff that was going on in the cycling world when it was like everybody was doping, no matter who. And then there was a big Russia scandal where they got like a lot of like they got banned from the Olympics because they were all doping. Like everyone in the Russian Olympics team was doping.
Like the figure skaters.
So it's like very pervasive. So who knows? I mean, to compete, maybe they're all doing it. So none of us could actually do it unless we're willing to.
Yeah, that's why we can't.
Yeah, the reason I'm not in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise we'd all be like
I would
top
totally
of our.
swim next to,
of course.
Ledecky. Like, let's go, Katie. Come on, girl.
Oh man.
I think that you have to also be incredibly gifted. You have to like be incredibly passionate about it, and then you have to take performance enhancing drugs.
Well, there's this whole thing, and it's not just about sports. It's like people who are hyper successful in anything.
Yeah.
There's like everyone wants to be like, oh, it's just my grit. Well, it's also there's also other factors too. So like an athlete, like there's a genetic component. Like if you're not built to be an athlete, there's a reason. There's a reason gymnasts seem to all look like gymnasts, and there's a reason that certain sports require you to be bigger and stronger, and so there's a genetic component. There's a hard work component. There is a did you have access to the right coach at the right time? Like there's all these things that go into it. It's never just I
think I could maybe be a jockey. I could be a high level jockey. Maybe CrossFit, because like some of the smaller CrossFit people do better because they have less body weight to like lift and all that other stuff. So,
who's the real athlete? Like, it's like there's a horse too,
Yeah.
Like, do they get the medal?
I think both.
I don't know.
Imagine standing on that huge horse while it's running.
It's dangerous.
No thanks. Do you know lots of jockeys are Cajun? Do you know that? I have to bring in some Cajun stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because lots of Cajun men are short.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you listen to the funny accents, a lot of times I'm like, ooh, Cajun. You know. So we're proud,
Okay. I didn't know that. Learned something today. So also there was a little controversy, right?
A little.
You don't want to talk about it?
We should. We can.
We can talk about it.
We got to talk about Fat Blue Man.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Fat Blue Man who was singing the song.
No.
On the table in front of fake Jesus.
No.
At the Last Supper.
No, I just saw like a picture of it. I didn't actually. I don't know. Was it at the very end of the opening ceremony? Was it part of the opening ceremony?
I watched it on replay. So
I don't.
I watched opening ceremony stuff, but I didn't see it in there. Yeah. But we were out of town, so I just saw bits and pieces.
I don't watch the Olympics, and so
so why not? You just don't care.
I honestly I like Winter Olympics.
Yeah,
I find those sports are so different to me that I'm like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's really cool. And
I always, they're like so obscure and that I'm not that interested in it.
Yeah, like curling. Like who knew about curling?
The one where they're on the skis and they have to like shoot bow and arrows and stuff.
Or the rifle. And
the rifle. Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
I mean, that's so different. And then I'm like, oh, this is cool. But the Summer Olympics, I'm not interested in running because I don't obviously like running. And, basketball is probably the only sport that I care about. But it's honestly sometimes not that fun to watch the U.S. just beat up all these other countries in basketball.
Plus, it's different. You got a different basketball. Yeah. You have a few different rules. Yeah. The 3-point line's a little bit closer. So it's not the same. It's a little closer.
Yeah, we keep moving on.
That's why Kevin Durant went off.
Yeah,
he was like shot like 100%. He was like 5 for 5 from 3-point line.
John's like, that's so boring. Dude makes a shot every time.
It's not as boring.
They're making a big deal about it.
I honestly, I didn't even realize the Olympics had started until I started seeing all these people post about the Last Supper thing. The Last Supper thing, and so I think there's two issues kind of going on with it. There is the issue of what was being depicted and was it mocking, was it blasphemous, what but then there's the other issue of if it as Christians, if it was blasphemous, if it was a mockery, if how do we respond to that is a second issue. And I think what I've seen online happen is those two things have gotten really jumbled together, and so you'll see people who say like they're right about something and then wrong about the next thing. And so it's been very interesting just reading through people's responses to some of the stuff.
Yeah, they're in the minutia. They're like down in the minutia.
And then the comments back to those people. And then so it's really been interesting. You have this issue, this thing that happened, and then I've seen like 20 different conversations that have just been really fascinating to read that all stemmed out of that, but very different issues that are coming up in there and perspectives. But I think the big one for us to kind of talk about, maybe if we want to dive into this, is understanding the difference between being offended and slipping into outrage. Because those two things are kind of are different, but we can easily respond to both. So I'll just say, I think it's okay to be offended by something that's offensive to you, right? And we as Christians often are going to be.
Don't you think that's what they were going for, though? I mean, I don't know what. Because I don't understand. I just don't get how it fits into the Olympics, honestly. Because I think isn't it's the painting's not. Is it in France? Is the Last Supper?
I think the point more was about here's who we are as France. This is who we are as France. Like, we're so cool and we're like so. But for me, my angle, my take on this is simple. It's like this. People are not aware of how secular Europe really is. Yeah. And it's just a nice wake-up call, actually. Like, okay, Jesus, we got some work to do.
That's what I thought. So it's actually it's not even in France. Yeah. It's in Milan.
I've been saying this.
So it's in Italy. So that's what I don't get is that how did that even... Because I would get if it was like maybe a picture that was famous for France or Paris or something. No, but it's not even having anything to do with that.
Showcase their French culture. Their, we're so egalitarian.
I don't think so I think there's this weird thing that happens in art, and I'm using art very loosely right now because there's I wouldn't call that art, but artists and performers often are driven by the desire to stand out. And one of the ways you do that is by being provocative. But it's very often easy when you're trying to just be provocative to cross a line into a place where you're just straight up offensive. And sometimes, and I'm not this is something that happens in all art all the time. You're like, I can't believe he said that on TV. I can't believe that comedian went there. You know? And it's like, they're trying to find the boundary and push it. This felt a little different to me. And
because it was a world stage, right?
It was a world stage.
Yeah.
And there's
and it was like representing the country, because like everything that they were showing were like pieces and parts that represent the culture and, you know, the history of France. So, and then you had that, which didn't, I get the art thing, but I just didn't quite see how it all fit together.
It was a statement by that particular person who wrote that opening scene.
I think there's this thing that's happening in Western culture right now. And this is just where, this is one of those points where what is in our culture versus what our culture was built upon are in conflict. You know, you're talking about Paris, France. They have a Notre Dame is in Paris, right?
Yeah.
A symbol of Christian history that the West or Western culture, Catholicism, was built upon that. But we also live in a modern age of secularism, of post-religious thought is very common. You know, and
Europe, especially in Europe.
Yeah, Europe is ahead of the U.S. by probably 20 years, and so of this thing that's happening. And so what you have, and then this is I think why it ended up feeling very offensive to a lot of people, is you had this place that has been historically a symbol of a Christian ethic, of Christian values, of the West, was bumped up right against our secular, humanist, you do you, whatever makes you happy values were just in clash right there. And that alone is offensive. Now you can get into what were they trying to do? Were they trying to offend? Was it, and then there, you get into the details too. Like I saw a lot of people saying it wasn't supposed to be the Last Supper. They were trying to do a different painting.
But they admitted that it was.
Well, then the Olympics came out later, and the actors came out and said
someone had to know. Yeah, someone has to know.
So when one of the performers
nothing gets on there.
It's not a surprise.
Oh no, we're definitely trying to invoke the Last Supper.
Yeah,
and it's like you want to sometimes assume ignorance. Oh, they didn't realize how offensive that would be to Christians. I think they knew. Like I think you would know that taking an iconic painting that is probably one of the oldest, most recognizable Christian images.
Yeah.
And then doing it in something that values and promotes something that most Christians find offensive.
It's the beginning. It's essentially the beginning of the Jesus' journey to the cross, right? He met with them so it's like it's
such a poignant.
It is in Christian faith in the Bible of what Jesus did for us. It's the beginning of that story.
It's a mockery of that.
It's a mockery. But then this is where this conversation pivots. It's like, okay, so that felt like a mockery of something I hold sacred. Now I don't hold the painting sacred, right? But what the painting the image of the painting, what it represents, that moment is very critical to my faith, right? And so I can be offended by that and say, hey, that was offensive. I don't like that you did that. But I have to choose, how do I respond to that? Do I allow my offense to this issue? Do I allow the fact that I felt like someone was making fun of my faith, maybe blaspheming God or mocking my God? Do I allow that to cause me anger and to go after those people? Or how should I actually respond to something like that?
It should respond to it? It should provoke a productive response.
Yeah. Well, like, but I'm not surprised at all. Like this kind of stuff happens all the time. Maybe not in a world stage level, but like, people are saying all kinds of things that they shouldn't be saying on a regular basis.
I heard a lot of people were saying the word blasphemy.
Yeah.
Right. And they were saying this is blasphemous, and I agree. It is blasphemous. It was a mockery of God, but there is so much other stuff in our world and culture that is just as blasphemous.
I mean, people use Jesus' name as a cuss word, you know, like, so I mean, that's like equally as bad in my opinion. I mean, if you read the Bible, it says don't do that.
Don't blaspheme.
Don't do that. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing when you're using Jesus' name in a way that's
right.
And that's why I think it was actually this is a really great wake up call to a lot of Christians to see it in such a prominent place in Western culture and in the world stage, to realize that, yes, we hold a lot of these things sacred and we are Christians, but culturally things have shifted. Mm-hmm. And while we may stay here as a church and as God's people, as Christians, we need to recognize that the people around us, they've moved. And it doesn't seem blasphemous to them because they don't believe in what they're blaspheming, right? Yeah. And so I think this is a really cool wake up call because it should let us know where we sit in the world and embolden us and encourage us. We've got work to do.
We do, and that's exactly my take on it. I said that earlier already. I do. Here's how I kind of have an attitude about this, but it's not like, so it's more like, you know what, like some people were not aware that this is, kind of where we are.
Yeah.
Of course, this is what we do. We know what's up with this stuff, but I think that your average person I hope will say like, hey man, like I might need to like think about, a few things here, So, and I say, our Jesus is a big, strong, tough Jesus. Like I tell my kids, bring it. Like, I'm not afraid of this. Yeah. I'm not, because we know Jesus is going to triumph, and we know. And so I feel empowered by like, you know what? I don't want this for people. I don't want it for the people who are standing up there in those costumes. I don't want it for the people who are watching it. Yeah. I don't want these people to live this life that they don't have to live. They can live in freedom. They can live in peace. I'm getting a little passionate. No. But they can live, that's what Jesus does. It's not just about, I'm going to save you from going to hell. Yeah. It's about, I'm going to give you a new life. You're going to become a new creation. You're going to have peace, and you're going to feel his love and all these wonderful things. So I'm like, is this what we really want to do? When you guys watch this, is this what we really want to see and what people should be like? No, but that's okay. We're going to use it, and we're going to let it empower us. That's how I feel about it.
I was thinking, you mentioned this earlier, like the Last Supper is like the first event in the series that leads to the cross, right?
Right.
In that,
first major event.
Or maybe the second. You got the triumphant entry and then.
Oh yeah,
I love that donkey. I love that donkey.
Palm Sunday,
and all that. Yeah. But it is a part of that progression. And I was thinking like, well, what Jesus' example through that, right? So Jesus on his way to the cross, and as he's being crucified, the whole way is mocked. Oh, you think you're the king? Mm-hmm. You think you're king? He's King of Kings. And he is God incarnate, right? He has all power, but he humbled himself and allowed himself to be mocked and ridiculed. They put a crown of thorns on his head. They draped him in royal cloth, mocking him as a king. And he still died for the people mocking him.
Yes, he's familiar with mockery.
Yeah, he wasn't hindered by mockery, and he's still God. He's still King of Kings today.
Yeah,
he's going to be mocked. And he doesn't need me to go defend his honor. He doesn't need me now. It's hard because I'm like, he is my king. I want to defend him, but he allowed himself to be crucified and to be mocked and to be ridiculed, and still love the people doing it. And so we as Christians should follow that example. It doesn't mean that we are passive and we don't say that that's wrong. It doesn't mean, because he's still called sin. He's still pointing out he wants to redeem our broken world. And that requires acknowledging the things that are broken in it. But he still showed love. And so I think the temptation for Christians is to get angry and to, make our fists and be like, all right, we're going to go to war and defend God.
But are we just trying to put the burn on people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or are we trying to love them with the truth?
Them and show them. So I think
let's love people with the truth. Let's not burn them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the right response.
But it's really interesting. I think because my first instinct was, let's call out culture for blaspheming God, right? And I'm angry about this. And then I was like, well, what would I expect? I've been saying this all week too. I kind of pagan's gonna pagan.
Yeah.
Right. What else do I expect from people who don't believe in Jesus, who don't follow Jesus? They're going to do things that inherently offends me as a follower of Jesus.
Like paint their bodies blue and lay on a platter and sing a song about being naked.
Yeah.
That's what the song's about being naked.
Where I've
I'm like, oh, honey, you got on TV and did that.
I am not saddened as much about the fact that they were mocking God and the image of the painting and all that stuff. So much that I am just saddened by the fact that our culture has evolved to a place where that's on TV and normal, and you had men dressed in a way that is, I think, inappropriate there were genitals out in some of the clips.
Yeah.
And there are children close to that. I am much more outraged and upset about that than I am about them attempting to mock my God. Because my God is all powerful. My God is over everything. Shoot your best shot. Like, he's not going to be mocked.
Jesus said, in this world, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
but take heart, I've overcome it. And I choose to say, bring it. Yeah. Like we're not scared. And it's not because we're going to beat you. It's because Jesus is going to win. And we can either take you along with us or you can suffer. And I don't want people to suffer.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is a good place for us to transition because I think that's a good final kind of comment of
I know I'm a little fired up.
I know. No, that's okay. That's good. But so taking this idea of this is what culture is right now, and this is what the younger generations are seeing and hearing, and they're interpreting what God is and who the Christians are as ones who are controlling and telling them they can't do it. So they see it more of a list of rules or, you're going to go to hell if you don't follow these things, which for some people, that's how they grew up in church, right? Yeah. So how do we prepare the next generation for following God in a healthy way, in a way that's not saying, hey, here's a bunch of rules that you have to follow, or, don't ask any questions about your faith. Just listen to what the pastor says, or the, this understanding of like, well, can I be a Christian, or can I do things that are fun?
Yeah. Can I watch that movie and still love Jesus?
Yeah. So how do we do that?
And how do we change the narrative? Threshold, right?
So how do we change the narrative?
Well, we start young.
Yeah.
We start really young. And for me, one of the things I try to very consciously do is plug in apologetics little. Yeah. Like young.
Yeah. So at what age are you?
Young. Yeah. Like little bitty. And, one of the most basic things that
like pre-K age?
Oh, yeah. Like as soon as they can talk.
Because I'm guessing not infant.
Well, I mean, you start talking about Jesus the moment they're born. Right. And then it's like, they never know life without him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's always a factor in there. But I think just the basic premise is, well, God made the world, because that's one of the things we teach in like toddler age. We, that's what we teach. God made the trees, and he made the sun, and he made all the plants and all the things. And you say God made the world, and he gets to make the rules because it's his world. If I draw a piece of art, I get to choose the colors.
Yeah.
And I get to say, no, I don't want red in my picture, or I do want blue in my picture. Well, it's God's piece of art, creation is, and he gets to make the rules about it. All the rules. He gets to say what's wrong and what's right, because he can make it all disappear like that. But you got to be careful with that kind of language with little kids, because they're literal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's how you do it. You simply talk about it. Having parented a whole 2 adults, and I'm still parenting a middle schooler, I find, go figure, that's the best thing I ever did, was the little things that I said offhandedly sometimes. Yeah. That's what they retain.
Yeah.
They're listening and they're watching. And so if I look like I'm living in freedom and I'm following Jesus, because that starts to look
time goes so fast with your kids too.
Yes, it does.
I'm already just thinking of like, man, there's so much more I want to accomplish, and I almost have a teenager, we're right on,
Well, the good thing is
the transition phase with Harper.
The good thing is that's the Holy Spirit's job also.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're not indispensable, but we should do our job absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we're giving our kids the best.
Well, but I think my point in this matter is that we can't just leave it up to Rebecca or the kids ministry. We can't just say that, oh, they're going to church, they're going to get it. They have to see it from their parents. They have to hear it from their parents. And then they also have to see it in tangible ways that aren't just words.
Right.
Right. So like, there's nothing you can say, like whether you're a Christian or you're anti-Christian, of someone going out and doing something good for someone else in the name of Jesus. We're doing it because this is what Jesus wants us to do. So I'm a big fan of going and serving with your kids, doing something good for other people, because the truth is, no matter who you are, you need help from time to time. We all need each other. So going out and doing something nice and saying, we do this because Jesus tells us to do it.
And, something to add in there when you're seeing, a homeless person on the sidewalk or something like that.
Yeah.
Or it's just saying to kids, hey, you know what? That person that, might have just said something that was, not nice to you. Jesus loves that person.
Yeah.
And kids are shocked by that sometimes.
Yeah.
They're like, what? They have that same like baseline, like feral indignation that we have when we see something like what we saw. Like, what is that? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And they can't make sense of it, just like some adults can't. make sense of how Jesus loves these people. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So we're always commenting on, that person. Now, I do not want you to get bullied at school. I absolutely want to know if somebody's bullying you at school, but I want you to know that person is loved by Jesus, and they're probably hurting on the inside themselves. Yeah. And so, you might extend an olive branch to that person at school in whatever way. Let them borrow your pencil, or, even invite them over to your house, after things settle down a little bit. So I think it's seeing you do stuff that seems kind of odd to kids. Like, why are you doing that? That person's so mean. Do you know?
Yeah.
I think they need to know that. I think they need to see it. They need to hear it. They need to watch it. And I also think, if you've got something on TV and somebody comes on, say there's a Dave Chappelle clip or something on Netflix, and you're like, yeah, we better mute that, And they say, well, why? Well, because he uses some really inappropriate language, and I don't want you to talk like that.
We've had, so I have a 4-year-old, and we're
the
in this
smartest 4-year-old I ever met. By the way, kid is smart.
He scares me a little bit.
He's really smart.
But we recently, we realized there were there's a show on YouTube he really likes, and so we'll let him watch it. But he's also learned that there's other shows on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And we've kind of had to have this conversation with him of he can only watch YouTube when I'm in the room.
Yeah.
And he said, why? Right. And every time your kid asks why, you can answer that directly, but you can also take the next level deep. And I just told him, I was like, hey, there's shows that on this thing that are teaching, and I didn't go into it, but they're promoting something that I believe is antithetical to not just the gospel, but the life that I think God wants you to have. And so I didn't use all,
I wouldn't go antithetical.
But I talk as there are things that God doesn't like, that he doesn't want for you, that they're teaching kids about. And I don't want you to see that, and because I love you and I want you to experience what God's best for you. Right. And it's not just I think that show's bad. That's why we're not watching it. It is, here's why I don't want you to watch this, because I don't think you're old enough to understand this. And, and I was shocked at how well he was like, oh, okay. Cause as soon as and it's funny now, he'll go, I can't watch YouTube because God doesn't like, God doesn't like something on YouTube, is what he'll say. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of getting it, but he's understanding that there's a higher thing to some of the decisions that I, as his parent, make for him.
Yes.
But I think whenever they ask those why questions, you can just answer it, or you can say, well, there's actually a deeper spiritual reason behind this. And I'm going to just open that door so he understands that there is a thought process. There are reasons behind the values and the rules that we have. The rules we have at my house are built upon values I have as a follower of Jesus. And letting him see some of that, I think, is really helping to start building that foundation of understanding that his actions are not just, one-dimensional, I do, they are built upon what he is going to value and think and all that. Yes. So, and I saw this the other day. I was really excited. We were driving down the road and we were listening to the radio, and he said, Daddy, turn the song up. And I was like, why? And then he goes, roll the windows down. I'm like, well, okay, why? He goes, I want everybody to hear God's love. And I'm just like, okay, it's starting to click. But how many why conversations have we had? That now he's like, let's actually do something because I want to benefit other people. And it's really cool to get to see that kind of stuff happen with your kid. But
it is. There's going to come a point, I'm going to warn you.
Yeah, I know.
Where he's going to be like, here comes Dad with the Jesus stuff again. You know what I mean? And so, that's where, your teammates come in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
You don't want to hear from me, but go ask Miss Rebecca or Mr. Andrew, and they'll give you.
Ask them a really hard question.
They'll say the exact same thing I was going to say, but you'll hear it. So whatever.
Well, and they're also, that's why you bring kids to church. You want to live out your faith in front of them so they understand that it's not a prison. Yeah. It's freedom, actually.
Yeah.
And you want them to see others do it also.
Well, I think we have it's easy for us to say this because we work here, but I feel like we have a really healthy culture for kids to grow up in here.
I hope so.
There's not you don't walk into this church thinking I have to, I am now held to a higher standard because I've just entered into a building. We have kids running in front of adults, and, not that you want that to happen, but they feel free enough that they can just run up and grab a donut from an adult, and go into the youth room and shoot basketballs after. Or maybe we don't want our kids, getting 3 donuts on a Sunday morning. But I love seeing that because they feel comfortable enough to go do those things, and we're not in a church where it's like, oh no, you're a kid. You go back to the kids area.
This is
or you need to be you need to be silent because you are a kid. You can't be running around doing these things because you're in God's house or whatever the reasoning is.
You know what you get there? You get a 24-year-old who turns their back on the church.
That's exactly what you get. No, you're right, because it's like, this is hands off. I don't want to be here.
It's oppressive.
It's oppressive.
It's supposed to be free.
It's supposed to be free. Yeah.
I just think about like during the week, there's somebody's kids are here. Like right now, we have kids in the office.
I love it when it's staff kid day. They're all here.
Awesome.
It's like
they all go to you too.
That's why with me.
I just think what's so cool about it is like, so I'm a PK, and like when I had to go to church during the week with my dad, it was probably because I was in trouble and I had to go sit up in the youth room and do my schoolwork and just be quiet, don't cause any problems, because it was a different culture. But here it's like, kids are here. We're so excited. Kids are here. My son is excited when he gets to come to work with me because he's like, he'll be like, is Miss Rebecca here? Or is Miss Sam going to be here? He gets excited about that. And I think that's just a really cool thing that is, I didn't necessarily fully experience growing up, that I'm like, that is going to help our staff kids not be bitter at the church, because it's easy. Like, why does dad have to be at the church so often? And I get why. He's working and he loves Jesus. He wants other people to know about Jesus. They can understand that, but they're going to feel like, but I don't feel like I'm with dad. And, or if I don't go with dad to work, like it's not fun, and so I think that difference is going to have a really big impact, later.
I hope so. Staff kids, they have it a little rough sometimes. People have different expectations for them than they do, and they're just kids.
Yeah, they're just kids.
I see Emma nodding her head over there. I know Emma's a PK.
Yeah, so
I'm definitely not a PK. Definitely not.
Same here. I'm not either, but my kids are. Yeah. So I'm very mindful of it. Yeah. Maria was. So she gets that lifestyle, which is very helpful for me, having a partner who understands what it's like to, work at a church and go to a church and all those, things that are hard to navigate.
And understanding, like, when your kids come to you and be like, I feel this weird pressure, understanding where that's coming from. And it's not something every kid experiences. And, but I think the reason I'm excited for raising our PKs here is because the same culture that is causing that is the same mindset and culture that we're bringing to all other areas and ministries for kids and students. Is that we want you to, when you leave, to maintain your relationship with Christ and your relationship to the church. Even if you move away, we want you to be able to go to another church and, connect there. And I think we're really intentional with that. Specifically, you're wearing the shirt with Summit is one of those cool things we're doing for.
Nice segue.
Yeah, and beyond that, I mean, let's transition one last time. But I think for a short, let's close it out here. But we're just getting ready to launch our groups. Something that we put a lot of work and effort into to try to create a diversity of different options for people at the gathering, no matter what stage of life you are in or what commitment level you have. We try to offer different things for it. But beyond that, it's just good for you to be in community, and not just be in community for community's sake, but be in community with other people who are on the same journey as you, that want to see life change take place, because that's what it's about. Like, we're about connecting more people to Jesus. Why? Because we want to see that life change happen. Like you said, it's not about the rules. It's not about, you're going to hell if you don't do this. It's about the love that you feel, the living within God's guidelines is not oppressive. It's actually freeing, because living the way that God has designed us to live allows us to live the best life that we can. Is it the easiest life? Is it the most? Is it the life path that's full of the most rewards? Not monetary, but in other ways it is, right? So it's for one, it's for good for us. But people don't get into groups because they know that they should, right? Everybody knows we need more relationships, we need more connections. Everyone understands that. People get into groups because of the content of the different studies that we have. And I think we have a great set of studies that we're going to be releasing here very soon that people are going to like, a little bit on like busyness in life, because everyone wants to learn how to balance busyness, especially families, because we live in a very busy world. So we're hoping we're going to release some studies that people are like, yeah, that's worth my time. I will give, 6 weeks to that and see how it goes. Like, what do we want? We want people to live in a community together with other people. That's what we want for them. But, hopefully they'll like the content and get involved in it and say, hey, I got into it because I like this study, but I'm going to stick around because actually it's really worth my time to have these relationships in there. So I'm just going to tease out a little bit, because not this Sunday, next Sunday, we're going to be releasing all the groups. People can start signing up for those on the Church Center app. All the groups are on there. It's really easy. You see the day, the time, the study they're going to do. You'll get to see the leaders are doing it. Rebecca's going to be leading a group this time around. I'm excited for that. She's going to do a fantastic job. I think we're launching like 6 or 7 different groups, something like that. So there's going to be a lot of different groups, days and times that they meet. So keep in touch, keep in tune with what's going on. You'll hear it. You come to the gathering, you'll be able to find it on Church Center. So thanks for spending some time with us today. Great conversation.
Oh, can I plug one thing?
Sorry. Plug your thing too.
I want to, in the spirit of building relationships with other Christians.
Yes.
Usually when we have special kid events, they are apologetics based, or I write them, and they're very tutorial and, but also a lot of fun. But this time coming up Sunday, we're back to school bonanza, which I've just been calling bonanza.
I just gotta say, you said something in our Slack channel today that bonanza is an awful show.
It is an awful show. I don't get the Western thing.
In the comments? I'm just kidding.
I don't get the Western thing. Anyway, bonanza is for families, and it's a chance for family. You have to come with your kids for this, because there's going to be some water involved, some foam. And I want to make sure we can see everyone, because the 2-year-old standing in a big thing of foam. But there's going to be a foam party. There's going to be an inflatable obstacle course. There'll be a smaller.
Is it like a fire truck that's shooting the foam out, or is it something?
No, it's
like an actual
like a foam
place.
cannon.
Because I've seen the fire trucks do it before.
Yeah, well, that would have been cool too.
Yeah.
But anyway, and there will be hot dogs and cotton candy and walking tacos, which I've never had. I don't think.
I will say this. This is a little pro tip for any parents that are coming. Bring goggles for the foam thing.
Oh, thank you.
Bring goggles. Because it will burn their eyes a little bit. I mean, it's not like. Not like Steve, in a chemical way.
No one's coming now.
But it's soap.
No one's coming.
It's soap is what I'm saying. It's,
it's supposed to be non-irritating.
But it still will irritate them slightly.
Well, some kids are sensitive. Anyway.
Some kids are sensitive.
You want a towel too to keep your kids dry. So there's going to be a little thing at the end too that's going to be fun for the kids. I'm not going to say what it is.
I'm excited.
Yeah, but there'll be some bad for you food. It'll be fun, and it's a chance for us all to hang out together and live out life together. I'm excited about it. So that's for kids with families with kids in 5th grade and below.
So it's an event. What I saw whenever I'm like, oh, cool. Like families are invited to come to this. It's like a bash to kick off the new school year.
Yeah, just to have fun together.
I love that idea. I don't think we've ever done anything like that I remember that the kids ministry has put on a family event right before school year. Great idea. I think it's going to be really fun.
I think so too. And we're excited about it. So thank you for the opportunity to plug that.
You are welcome. All right. Well, till we see you all again, have a great day. Thanks.
Bye-bye.